Hi everyone, thanks for joining me tonight. My name is Andy Klingensmith. I'm on the interpretation team here at Shaw Nature Reserve, and we're going to go on another beautiful dusk hike around the reserve. It's a beautiful night. Today is Thursday, August 20th, and it's about 82 degrees, maybe falling down into the 80 degrees, and it's nice and cool. It's not too humid, and it's a perfect night to be out. A perfect evening to hike the trails here at Shaw Nature Reserve. So thanks for joining, Barb. Good to see you. Everyone else who's on, it's great to see you. Thanks a lot for being here. And like always, if you would do me a huge courtesy and just let me know who's watching and where you're from, city and state. It's always fun to see and watch our community grow. So we are going to start here at the Dana Brown Overnight Center. This is Shaw Nature Reserve's Environmental Learning Campus. And then we are going to head over my shoulder. All right. We're going to head down that road. That is headed west. And we are going to eventually make our way down to the wetland. But we're going to start going through the forest there because the sun is in just the right angle where it gets a lot of glare in the camera. So we're going to start in the forest, work our way down through the prairie, try not to get bit by too many mosquitoes, and we'll go enjoy the sights and sounds of Shaw Nature Reserve at dusk. Hi, Brian. Great to see you. I'm going to turn the camera around so we can get going. All right. The sun is still a bit above the tree line over there, so we probably have about 35 minutes left of actual sunlight before it dips below the horizon. But on our way, we'll check out and see the plants and what's out and about. Dale, good to see you. Com, and Sue Lee, great to have you on. So here we have one of our first goldenrods that we're going to find today. So this is, I believe, elm leaf goldenrod, Solidago ulmifolia. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate you watching. So this is one of the first goldenrods to flower. We'll potentially come across a tall goldenrod as well. And oftentimes, we have sympathy for these plants here because Solidago is oftentimes criticized for giving us hay fever and making us have a lot of these allergic reactions late summer. People see the yellow flowers and just think plenty of pollen, but that's not the case because Solidago here is pollinated by insects, as you can see, cucumber beetle right there on the other side of my mask. So this is pollinated by insects, beetles and other flying insects. So this pollen is not wind dispersed. So this is not the plant that gives us all of that hay fever in late summer. We'll go try and find ragweed, which is the actual culprit. But this is elm-leafed goldenrod. Hi, Lori, Phyllis, good to see you. First time watching from Kirkwood, well, welcome. Lori, I saw pictures of you and Avery. You were here yesterday morning, I believe, or maybe this morning. It's great to see Sights and Sounds Trail Series folks actually out on the trail and sending pictures. That's so fantastic. So here we have tall goldenrod beginning to bloom. I don't have my measuring stick. I wish I did. But tall goldenrod. So here, this is about, I would say maybe like 5 feet 8 off the ground, where that Solidago, the elm leaf, was only about 4 feet off the ground. And Solidago is a beautiful flowering late summer plant, but it is a pretty aggressive grower. We can see all of this is goldenrod. Now it's going to be very beautiful and yellow, but you can just see all of this is goldenrod. So be careful if you plant it in your yard. Again, beautiful color, that nice yellow that lets us know that this is late summer. We just enjoy that nice late summer vibe that we get as we start moving into fall. And then again, the beautiful combinations of these yellows. Oh, this is Rudbeckia triloba, or brown-eyed Susans, paired with the fading echinacea purple coneflower. then tucked right in there, I believe this is white snake root. White snake root. This plant has a connection to the Lincoln family. If anybody knows the story of how white snake root and Abraham Lincoln's mother are connected, you can go ahead and share that in the chat. So we'll make our way down Freundridge Road in a little bit, but we're going to come over here to, this is where we teach students when we have in-person field trips about living off the land, or this is kind of our homage to the native peoples and early settlers here in Missouri. But right now, there are no kids here, sad face. But when we were over here earlier, so we found this mushroom. Try to zoom in on it. It really hasn't fruited out all the way yet, but this is an indigo milk cap. See if I can find another one. They're like bright blue. It was just, well, here's the, you can kind of see that here's the stem of one of them. I don't know if the video does good justice, but this is like a nice purple color. And we found a really bright blue one. And so we found a bright blue mushroom here in this area. And you would think bright blue mushroom looks pretty trippy, don't eat it. But in fact, indigo milk cap is an edible mushroom. I wish I could find a nice blue one. But yeah, so remember the rule of thumb is don't eat a mushroom you're unfamiliar with, especially if they look crazy colors, until you're able to identify them. All right. Hello, Midge Watkins from Pal, Ohio. I was just in Pal, Ohio, not too long ago. All right, thanks to you who are joining a little bit later, I would say. It's only 9:07. We're gonna hike down the Freundridge Road here around to the wetland, but you can see it's gonna get really bright as we come around the corner, so I'm gonna try and stick in the shade as much as possible until the sun actually does go down below the horizon so it doesn't wash out the camera. But we'll see what we can find. We're headed off into the prairies that border the wetland, as well as heading down to the wetland itself. Ooh, it was cardinal. Hi, Deidre from Wildwood. Thanks for watching. Nice. Ooh, here we go. So we have, again, nature loves to contrast its yellows with its pinks. So again, this is Rudbeckia triloba, brown-eyed Susans, about the size of my thumb. And this plant here, these really dainty little flowers here, this is tick trefoil. Tick trefoil, commonly we don't recognize, we oftentimes don't see the flowers, but what we do often find are its seeds. You can see that between my fingers. So this is a legume, meaning it's in the pea family, but we oftentimes will find these seeds stuck to our pants or our shoes after a hike. And this is the plant it comes from. So tick trefoil. When this matures, it grows like a little bitty bean in there, and you can eat that. It's really little though, you have to eat a lot. But this is tick trefoil. So it grows, throws its flowers up on a long stalk, and then down here are the leaves of this plant. So again, most of the time when we find tick trefoil, it is stuck to our pants. Let's go see what else we can find. Brian McDaniel asks, what's my favorite plant at Shaw Nature Reserve? I've said a lot that the American bellflower, the tall bellflower, is my favorite. Just because I like the shape of its flower, and its piston or its stamen sticks out pretty far like a tongue. So I find that enjoyable. But there are so many, Brian. I can't really, I guess I'd have to pick that American bellflower. Brian McDaniel's living in Texas, I believe. So Brian, will you tell us what your favorite plant in Texas is? No, I'm putting you on the spot. Nice. Here we have more of our late summer yellows. This is a sunflower. I believe it's an oxide sunflower. I'm just looking at the bracts at the bottom here. That's the green part. So the bracts are here, you know, as they protect and open as the flower opens. So oxide sunflower or false sunflower has these more rounded bracts. So you can see there in my thumb. And if I find I'll try and find another sunflower and compare that to the pointy bracts that many other sunflowers have. Nice. We have Indian paintbrush here in Missouri, Brian. How nice. And oxide sunflowers are oftentimes a lot more golden in color compared to their sunflower cousins. So let's go see if we can find some more sunflowers. But you can see the sun. I don't want to point you directly into it. But it's setting, it's beginning to set over one of our reconstructed prairies. See on the top right of your screen, you can see how that sun is just washing out the camera. So we'll try and stick to the left side, see what we can find over here. We have, okay, so we have Rattlesnake Master. Nice, beautiful white flower. You can see the stamen sticking out right by my thumb. And then this is Rattlesnake Master starting to go to seed. When these all dry out, you can crush them in your fingers. You can gather a few seeds, but I only got one today. Ooh, Deidre likes Chelone obliqua. Deidre, do you know can you share the common name with everyone? And along the edges of this prairie and woodland, we'll oftentimes find our mountain mint. Again, a great way to identify mint is looking for that square stem, those oppositely arranged branches, and then those flowers that grow in these clusters. Once you ID those three traits, go ahead and crush the leaves, get a good smell, and oftentimes, smells like mint. So let's keep going into the sunset, everyone. You can almost begin to see what these grasses look like in the fall as the sun hits these browning out seeds. It turns this beautiful prairie into this, burnt brown, goldish gaze of just color. Well, we're coming up to the little trailhead that will take us to the right in here to the prairie here in a little bit. Ooh, pink turtlehead. Yes, thank you. That is one of my favorites. Brian McDaniel, I'll also have to note that I also like a plant known as obedient plant. If we find one in the prairie, I'll show you why it's one of my favorites. It also makes me chuckle. The obedient plant. Mint does tend to take over your garden. Put it in your smoothies, put it in your ice cream. Delicious. All right, so we're gonna take this trail here. This trail will take us down to the wetland, which you can see is just before that line of trees down there. And we'll go find some grass flowers. It's one of the flowers I think a lot of people overlook is the fact that these grasses also have their unique flower structures. Let's see if we can find some. Oop. And so most of this grass we're seeing right now is big blue stem, also called turkey foot. You can kind of see the shape of the turkey foot. So turkey foot grass or big blue stem, named aptly, I believe. You can kind of see the blue question mark color. It just has these nice colors, these nice reddish colors, sometimes bring out a little purple. So big blue stem, one of the dominant grasses we have here, big blue stem. We have Indian grass, gamma grass, and switchgrass. But the big blue stem is going to be one of the biggest that we'll find. I mean, so without putting you in the sunlight, where my ring is actually where the top of my head is. So if we keep going up, that grass is still a good 2 feet above my head. And I'm about 6'1", so this grass is about 8 feet tall. In a prairie full of tall plants, if you want to pass on your genetics, you literally have to stand out. Thanks for letting me humor myself. All right, as beautiful as this prairie is with all these tall grasses and these dominant big blue stems, what we're really looking for and we're working towards in our reconstructed prairies and part of our restoration efforts is increasing the diversity of flowering plants in here. So still, even I can hold this up. Oop. You notice that on both sides, this this reconstructed prairie is still dominated by grasses. And we are really trying to work on increasing the forb species or those flowering plant or those lateral veined plants in here. So our restoration crew is working, finding the seeds that they want, going out and collecting those seeds, prepping those seeds, cleaning those seeds, and then they bring those seeds right back out to this prairie and they help disperse them. So we are beginning to see, we do have some flowers that are out here. Velociraptors. So here we have ashy sunflower. So this is one of our sunflowers. It's called ashy because it has this like gray tinge to the leaf. Get this grass out of the way. And that gray tinge is just caused by all these tiny little hairs on it. But on a sunflower, if we look at the back, see those bracts? How nice and pointed they are compared to the false sunflower that was more rounded. And so here we have ashy sunflower. So we have ashy sunflower here, and then tucked back there, we have, I think it's called bunch clover, or it's Lespedeza capitata, I believe. So this is a clover. It is related to the clovers we find in our yard. So this is Lespedeza capitata. This is a native to Missouri, and here soon we'll find the invasive Lespedeza cuneata or sericea. But nice white flowers on this bush clover. Nice. Whoa. Oh, excuse me. Deidre, so it depends on what the restoration need is. Most of the time when our restoration crew is out here, I believe they're broadcasting seed more than they are planting starts. But our horticulture team, who works in the Whitmire Wildflower Garden, they're definitely growing plants indoors and then bringing them out and planting those starters in their respective gardens. All right, and then there's this plant that I've found, but I have not spent the time to identify it. I think it might be called a spurge, S-P-U-R-G-E, but I'm not sure on that. If anybody has an ID of this flowering plant found here in the prairie. So these are the flowers, 5-petaled flowers with it's a really interesting, I wonder if that's the seed popping out of there already or if that's just the stamen. Huh. And then it just has, looks like alternating, like short leaves going up this stem here. So if anybody has an ID for us, let me know in the chat. Yeah, I got it, Ross. It's a euphorbia, or flowering spurge. Thanks, Ross. If anybody wants to second Ross as well, that just gives us better, more concrete ID. Ross, not that I don't believe you, it's always helpful to have a second in there. Whoa, there's a big old, all right, there's a big old horsefly chasing me down. So we're continuing to make our way down the hill, headed towards the wetland. But in the corner of your eye, even in these tall grasses, these beautiful yellow flowers really pop at you. They say, hey, look at me, look at me. And so here we have a silphium, member of the silphium family. It's actually pretty short, which I'm really surprised that this plant is so short. So this is compass plant. The only way I know that is I looked all the way down here towards its, and we can see there the really unique leaves of the compass plant. Nice and hairy stem. But again, this compass plant here is probably only 4 feet tall. Take a step back, contrast that with the really tall big blue stem, and you can really see the color right now in this light, which is the reason why we call this grass big blue stem. Check that out. And then if we look close, we can actually see on this big blue stem, where my finger joint is, those brown little clusters right there. Those are the male parts of this flower, this grass's flower. So those are the pollen producing parts. Those are the anthers that are hanging down. So how beautiful those grass flowers look. I guess they're not as beautiful as, say, that flower, but I guess beauty is all in the eye of the beholder, right? So let's go see if we can find the female flowers. The female flowers look like little purple pipe cleaners. So let's go see if we can't find some of those somewhere. Ooh, here's a really good view. You can kind of see the male flowers hanging down there, full of pollen, and these are wind pollinated. So I could tap on that, and nope. Sometimes you'll see like a little puff of pollen broadcasted. Right, there's a big blue stem. Let's make our way, see if we can't find the female flowers of the big blue stem. Or we'll hit the wetland first. So we are currently walking north at Shaw Nature Reserve. If you head towards the highway, you are walking in a northward direction. So at Shaw Nature Reserve, understandably, it's 2,500 acres. It's very large, but you can only go so far, right? So if you walk far enough north, you'll be stopped by the highway. If you walk far enough south, you'll be stopped by the river, the Merrimack River. If you go too far east, you'll be stopped by the city of Pacific, which there is a really nice Mexican restaurant there. If you happen to be lost, you get yourself some chips and dip. And if you head too far to the west, you'll hit Robertsville Road, and that's the old Highway 66 with the Garden View Hotel. So you can only go so far here at Shaw Nature Reserve, but oftentimes we don't go far enough because we're always distracted by the beauty of the plant species here. So this is indigo, baptisia, and I was going to show you hanging out in the baptisia was a cool little grasshopper. All right, so we're still making our way down this path to the wetland. So as we move down the hill, this prairie becomes the land here becomes a little more wet as we've moved downhill in elevation. So we will also begin to see the plant communities change just a little bit with the plants that depend on a little more water to survive. So we're starting to see a little more of our Rudbeckia. So I believe this is Rudbeckia subtomentosa. So Rudbeckia hirta is black-eyed Susan, but that's a plant that flowers earlier in the summer. And Rudbeckia subtomentosa, I think it's also known as, I'm kind of blanking on the common name, but it oftentimes is a little more golden, a little more orangish, and it flowers later in the summer. So today we've already seen Rudbeckia triloba, brown-eyed Susan. Now we've seen Rudbeckia subtomentosa. We'll go see what other kind of Rudbeckia we can find along our way. And down here we begin to see more of our partridge pea. Ooh. So here we go in the prairie just a little ways, and we see these nice this yellow color and this nice red center of these partridge peas. Let me get all this grass out of the way. There they are. And so we can see on the left-hand side, these are its legumes, so these are its seed pods. So this is in the Fabaceae family. But on the right side, these darker that look like they're legumes are actually their leaves. So at night, they fold in on themselves, protecting themselves, I'm assuming, from damage of these really tiny leaflets. As this is your energy producing units, you want to protect them, right? So this will eventually close up and look like that. And tomorrow, when the sun comes back out, they'll open right back up. So partridge pea. And it looks like we have some ants hanging out, farming aphids. If you can look closely, those little red things. Ooh, actually, I think Dr. James Traeger told me this, but if you look closely, I believe those little red dots are actually like nectar. I'm trying to say like nectar pods or something like that, where the plant actually exudes nectar into those little areas where these ants then come and drink it. And potentially, I mean, it might have the potential to bring more insects around to help pollinate, but I believe that is what those little red dots are. Like bait for insects to help come pollinate it. Or, not bait, let's say an incentive. So providing a mutualistic relationship, right? The plant provides excess nectar to the insects provide opportunity for pollination. Teamwork. All right, let's keep going down to the wetland. Oop, bring you down a little bit. And we're starting to see much more of these bushes, or artesia, or the indigo. A little more mint is in here, but the common theme around here is these big blue stem. Big blue stem and an oak tree. So I don't know if you remember that game we played on Sesame Street where one of these things doesn't belong. I think Ernie sang it, or maybe Grover or Monster, I don't know, Cookie Monster. But one of these things doesn't belong. So we have an oak tree, we have big blue stem, the yellow flower or the white flowers right there are a mint. And of those three things, of the mint, the big blue stem, and the oak tree, one of these things doesn't belong. And in the ecosystem, that we are restoring and we are working to create, the oak tree doesn't necessarily belong here. Thanks for playing. All right, we're almost making our way down. Ooh, it's actually getting colder. And it's getting a little more dewy. So my feet are a little wet. Oh, there it is. All right. So my second favorite plant that we were talking about earlier is called obedient plants. That's what I call this plant here. Oop. And it's called obedient plant because you can just simply take a flower head and move it and it stays there. It's very obedient. I can take a flower head and I can move it and it will stay there. So obedient plant. I believe it's probably a survival mechanism. As you're in the prairie, a deer runs by and wipes past you at full speeds. Instead of breaking off, you just shift your place and move back. Obedient plants. Probably my second favorite behind American bellflower. Nice. All right. So down here we find ourselves enjoying Rudbeckia triloba. There's mint in there. The tall white flowers in the back, I believe, are Indian plantain. Oh man. And then we have that giant plant there is, I believe, wild hyssop. That is in the mint family. And then down here we have a lot of our creek oats. Let me get out of the way. There you go. River oats, creek oats, known by many names. It's really interesting grass. Kind of looks like hops a little bit. All right, we finally made it down to the path. So we could head that way along the wetland trail, and that will take us out to the wetland parking lot. But we are actually going to make our way that direction towards that bunny and go check out the wetland. Oh, there it goes. All right. All right, so we're gonna pass some people here on the trail. So I just popped a mask on. Just make sure being safe, being courteous with our visitors. So we'll just go over here and check out more of these, oh my gosh, more of these Rudbeckia triloba, brown-eyed Susans, and compare that with our oxide sunflower or false sunflower. So I think that the Latin name or botanical name for this plant is Heliopsis helianthoides, simply meaning a sunflower that looks like a sunflower. So we turn it over and we look at the bracts and we see they're a little more rounded than our other sunflowers that we'll find here. Just the difference in color. How we doing?
We're great.
Good, awesome. All right. All right, back to the trail. Nice. Here's a good size comparison between Rudbeckia subtomentosa and its cousin Rudbeckia hirta. Look at the size difference. Hirta much smaller, much darker center. Subtomentosa a little bit lighter, nice and even more maroon looking. But we look at the number of flowers on subtomentosa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, compared to the number of flowers on hirta, 10 to 15. So a great way to identify, looking at the bushiness and the multiple flowers the high number of flowers on Hirta compared to much larger flower heads, but also a smaller number of flower heads on subtomentosa. Nice. Man, but Hirta really provides an awesome, like, bushy cover for your landscape. All right, I have another question for the audience. Let's see. Here's this interesting plant. We're here along the wetland. It has this maroon stem, and it has all these, like, hairy, I don't even know what you call them. I guess these are the flower heads, maybe? And it comes up into this. Can anybody help identify this plant for us? There's one right there. And then here's another one here. It's about almost 5.5, 6 feet tall. And it has a little friend over there. So I'm unfamiliar with this plant. Maybe someone can help us identify it. Zoom in. There's the flower head. And I'm assuming these are all just a bunch of flowers that will pop here in a little bit. But if you know what this plant is, please help us out. I'd like to learn it. And then we come down here to our ecotypes. We have Prairie Dock. So we saw compass plant earlier. So this is its cousin, Prairie Dock. Silphium is the genus. But we go down the stem. And unlike compass plant, we noticed compass plant had a hairy stem. Prairie Dock has a nice smooth stem. And then with that smoothness of the stem really contrasts. And here are the size of the leaves. This is my hand, but the leaf is very, very rough. So we have this nice contrast between rough leaf and a very smooth stem, growing up to be 6 or 7 feet tall. Again, another one of these beautiful yellow flowers of the Silphium family. So we've seen 2 members of the Silphium family. Let's go see if we can find the 2 other ones. So we have 4 total family members of Silphium here at the Nature Reserve. But let's make our way over to the wetland, because that's what I really want to see. On our way down to the wetland, here's the 3rd member of the Silphium family. This is cup plants. Take a step back. We can see the leaves of the cup plant actually clasp around the stem, creating this nice little cup that water is stored in. Sometimes you can see frogs living in there. Other organisms find respite under the big leaves for shade, but also the water accumulation that happens right here in the cup. And just like every other Silphium, it has really sandpapery leaves. Listen. And then it's not out yet, but the nice yellow flower. And again, we see this nice combination of yellow and purples. This purple is ironweed. Nice. Deidre, if you had to share in just a few words why cup plant is your favorite, how would you respond to that? I won't tell the other Silphium family members, but why is cup plant your favorite? Nice. All right, I'm gonna take another step down into the prairie because earlier this year we found Prairie Dodder, which was that orange stringy plant. And this white Cheeto or cheese puff looking stuff around the stem is actually the flowering part of that Prairie Dodder. So these flowers are actually coming from the stem of this, I believe this is probably a goldenrod in the Asteraceae family. So this nice winding row of, I believe these are flowers, if I can get close enough. You can kind of see the stamen sticking out there. But this is the flowering part of Prairie Dodder. Pretty cool. And again, it's the flowers actually coming out of the stem of this goldenrod. Dodder injected itself to gather the nutrients from this plant, and then from within, it also will pop out those flowers. So it could be detrimental to the goldenrod, which would ultimately be detrimental to the Prairie Dodder, but that's the risk you take when you're a parasite, right? Wow. And as we continue, we're down here closer to the wetlands. We're getting ever closer. And I know the sun is waning, but the colors become more diverse down here. So we see more of our yellows. Again, we see our Rudbeckia, Echinacea. Over here, tucked in as a corner, that is Scutellaria. Nice. Oh, there it is. Nice blue Scutellaria. Skullcap is the common name for it. And yeah, look at these. Look at this color right here along the wetland trail. You can come out this weekend and check this color out for yourself. Especially because the weekend's going to be so nice. I think it's going to be only in the 80s again, nice and sunshine. Come on out, enjoy the sights and sounds of Shaw Nature Reserve. Nice, thanks Deidre, appreciate that. Oh man, we're so close to the wetland, but we're getting so excited for all these other things. Pop quiz. What is the name of this plant? It has a few common names, so I'll let you share. If you know a common name, please go ahead and you can share that. If you know the Latin name, even better. While you do that, while you think on it, I'm going to find this seed pod, which if I touch it delicately enough and get it in the camera, oh, get that out of the way. And you pinch it, oh, it explodes. Nice. So these seed pods, that's how they disperse their seed, and a little bit of touch or pressure, not that one, they explode. So if you have a name for this beautiful plant here, this nice cornucopia looking flower, nice and orange, Ross, absolutely spotted touch-me-not. It is an impatient species, also known as jewelweed, right? So what's really fun with this plant, one of the reasons it can be called jewelweed, is if you can take a leaf of this plant and you turn it over and you put that in your hand and you put water on your hand, that water and that shine of the reflectivity of the light actually creates like a silverish hue. So this basic green plant, add a little bit of water and you'll see some nice jewels of silver coming through in the color. So try it out when you find some. If you find a lot of it, just be mindful that we respect the plant's own desire to live, so we don't pick too many of the leaves. So touch me not or jewelweed. This plant is pretty good. It's a vascular plant, and its veins are really, really, really big. So it carries a lot of water and a lot of nutrients up from the soil. And some people say that you can actually pop this open, tear it open with your thumb, and the juices in there will actually help relieve itchiness. So I've heard. Impatiens, touch me not, jewelweed. Nice. Yep, it's that water. Oh man. All right, we're so close to the wetland. We've come to, so that's the western pond. This is pond, I would say, number 6 out of these 8 major ponds in a row. And to see the large one, we're actually gonna, I got overexcited, we're gonna turn around and we're gonna head to the boardwalk. So let's go do that. Let's go check out the boardwalk, see if we can find some hibiscus or mallows. Ooh, I see cowbane. I'll have to point out cowbane because if you have a pet cow, you definitely don't want your cow eating cowbane. The name says it all. Here you go. It looks like wild carrot. I would say the umbels are more separated. If you can think of what Queen Anne's lace looks like, this is a little more spaced out. The leaves, so here the leaf shape of this species, but the stems and the roots of this plant are poisonous, so we definitely don't want our cattle or our range animals or us eating cowbane. Really cool looking plant though. All right, the sun is setting quickly, and this is just a reminder to you all that come September, the Missouri Botanical Garden, Shaw Nature Reserve's hours will be 8 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. Currently, for the next week and a half or so, we are still 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But please note, come September, our hours will be 8 a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. I don't know if Dr. James Traeger is watching, but if so, this is your restoration area, James. It's looking pretty good. A lot of singing insects in here. I see a lot of spice bush. Another diversity of plants in here. So James Traeger, that's for you. All right, here we are. We finally made it to the boardwalk. Let's go check out what the wetland has to offer in these waning lights. The water is finally receding. This is usually what this area of the wetland looks like right here along the border or the boardwalk. On this side, we can still see water up in this area. Those beavers have really dammed up this wetland, and this water is just a little higher than it usually is this time of year. Beautiful. Here's another plant that I'm unfamiliar with. This is found right here along the edge of the wetland boardwalk. If anybody has an ID for us, please share. 5-petaled pink flowers with really long stamens on these, looks like alternating leaves along this very smooth stem. So anybody has an idea that these Dr. Seuss flowers are, please share. And all that snowy whiteness on these plants here, this is all aquatic smartweed. Really light pinkish color flowers related to the smartweed that we find out on the edges of the prairie. But here's more of this flower that I'm unfamiliar with. Ooh, it just grows right up along the nice red stem. Look at those. So as the summer does come to an end, so do a lot of our lilies. Most of the flowers, I can see a few flowers on the other side still holding on, but most of the lilies are beginning to dry up. They're beginning to close up. We have our pickerel, purple pickerel weed. Nice and flowering. Right here off of the boardwalk. Better view of pickerel weed. Zoom. There we go. Nice. Okay. All right, we'll do one more stop. We'll head over to the bridge over that way, and we'll see what the beaver dam looks like. So just like in the forest, when you can see deer trails, if you look closely, you can actually see the path the beaver takes to its lodge, which is right underneath that sycamore tree. That's its lodge that's hanging out in, and you can see it move in this direction. It's really done a number here, kind of opened this area up. And what it's doing here, maybe it's hunting, maybe it's looking for food or other, I don't know, potential resources. But it seems to be enjoying this part of the wetland. And then it just makes its way right back out. You can kind of follow the path right over there to that open area, and then probably right into its lodge. Oh, so look closely. That's probably what it was doing here. That's a really fresh beaver chew. I'll try to zoom in. There it is. All right. You can actually see the teeth marks. And you can see chunks of wood. Oh, that's my finger. Chunks of wood in the water there. So that's what that beaver was doing over here. All right, so it was chewing on this tupelo tree. Oh, turn that off. There you go. You can see the little tupelo fruits there. Nice. This is a female. Tupelos are sexually dimorphic. I think that's what, no, it's just different. They're, there's a word I'm looking for that I'm forgetting, where in the species, each tree is, so this tree is a female, and in the tupelo tree, there's a male tree where some flowers, dioecious, meaning All right, we're almost there. Let's make our way to the beaver dam, see what it's up to, and then that will be it for the night. It's a really beautiful evening. If you can make it out here this weekend or make it out maybe tomorrow evening, you know, gates close at 8 o'clock. It's only 7:55 right now. So you can still out here and enjoy the beauty of Shaw Nature Reserve. And oh, it's so nice feeling right now. Ooh. You see it? Oh, bunny. There it goes. See ya. Yeah, nice. Oop. And let's see. Up in the sky. It's not going to be great pictures, but that thing flying, we have bats. So there's actually 3 of them out here. The camera is not going to pick up on them, but you'll see that there's one there. There's one over there. There's actually 3 bats out flying above the prairie, which is a fantastic sign, which means the diversity of prairie plants that we have here is home and providing enough resources to a diverse number of insects, especially flying insects. And when we increase that number of diversity of flying insects, we increase the number and diversity of flying insect eaters like birds and bats. So kudos to our restoration team. All the staff here at Shaw Nature Reserve have been hard at work creating these beautiful habitats that not only benefit us and our enjoyment of the natural world, but provides so much for the natural world itself. And that's really why we're here. So here's the edge of the wetland. Here's the bridge that I'm on. And this smartweed is just growing on top of this beaver dam. Usually this smartweed isn't here. Usually we're seeing a nice path that runs through here as the water fills in the wetland. This is the escape route of this water. It goes under this bridge and it heads off down that way into Brush Creek. But this year, there's no water running because the beavers have done a number here. And last but not least, we come over here to cardinal flower. Lobelia cardinalis. Beautiful reds. We have a few red flowers blooming right now. We have cardinal flower. We also have royal catchfly. And then there's still some Indian pink flowering in the Whitmar Wildflower Garden. So we'll end with Lobelia cardinalis. It's here on the Wetland bridge. So come and check that out next time you're here at Shaw Nature Reserve. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, I want to thank you for joining me tonight on this nice hour-long dusk hike. We checked out the areas around Freund Ridge Road. We walked down the Prairie Trail and made our way to the wetland. And we checked out the wetland boardwalk and also the beaver dam and led us right to that Lobelia cardinalis. So again, thank you very much for joining. I always appreciate when you all are on. Those who are hosting watch parties, thank you very much for doing that. I love when you all spread the word about Shaw Nature Reserve. And I'm excited to see you all out here, maybe not in person, but like the collective, we as in Shaw Nature Reserve are excited for you all to come out this weekend, enjoy some time around the Nature Reserve. Remember, starting in September, hours will be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Another reminder that the fall plant sale order form went live yesterday. So if you're interested in getting some plants from Shaw Nature Reserve plant sale, go online, get that order form, and get your orders in. It was really successful in the spring. It's going to be really successful again in the fall. In September, we're doing a whole celebration of the Prairie. So stay up to date with all things Prairie celebration on Shaw Nature Reserve's social media pages and our webpage. So again, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you next week. And soon enough, when we all do our part, we can come back out here and all meet together. But until then, find some time, come out to Shaw Nature Reserve and enjoy the sights and sounds of SNR. We'll see you next time.